Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Amanda.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Kendra.
And today we are continuing our series on schema therapy and the early maladaptive schemas that commonly show up in specifically physicians. In the last episode, we talked about self-sacrifice and subjugation, the schema that turned many physicians into the person everyone can count on, except themselves. So today we're talking about two schemas that are deeply connected to physician loneliness, and that is emotional inhibition and emotional deprivation. These are the schema that can make doctors look calm, capable, composed, and self-sufficient on the outside, but inside, it's a different story. They're feeling numb, lonely, disconnected, or quietly desperate on the inside. So emotional inhibition says, I should not feel this. Emotional deprivation says, even if I feel it, no one would really be there anyway. When those two go together, you get the doctor who needs absolutely nothing. It's the doctor who says, I'm fine. It's our favorite meme with the dog surrounded by fire. But yeah, it's the one who's like, I don't need anything. I'm not going to ask. I don't want to bother anybody. It's the doctor who keeps functioning. It's the doctor who can handle everyone else's emergencies, but may not have any idea how to let someone into their own.
Okay, so let's start by defining these two schemas. Emotional inhibition is the pattern of suppressing emotion, vulnerability, needs, anger, sadness, tenderness, play, spontaneity, any of these feelings, actually. We don't like to feel feelings, right? Because if we did, that might also lead to a feeling not safe or maybe unprofessional or maybe inconvenient at times or weak or pointless, whatever you want to put in there. There's lots of excuses. But emotional deprivation is the expectation that your normal emotional needs for comfort, empathy, protection, attention, or understanding probably will not be met. So emotional inhibition says, don't show it. And emotional deprivation says, well, no one's coming anyway. And together they can create a physician who is very good at functioning and not very practiced at being comforted or feeling anything really. And so let's make a distinction here. Emotional is not the same as emotional regulation. And we've talked about this a lot because we don't even have words for feelings. We're not sure what's happening, right? And when we talk about emotional regulation, we first have to identify what we're feeling. Emotional inhibition means like, I can't afford to feel this. And regulation means I can feel this and stay connected to myself. So that's naming the feeling, allowing it, and then choosing what to do next. So that's regulation. Regulation gives you flexibility. Inhibition gives you containment, but often at the cost of what people might say, like, I don't even feel like a living being, or like, I don't feel alive, or when was the last time I did something I felt alive, or just like I mattered, or that I was like present on this earth. And working in medicine for any amount of time can definitely do that to you. So even if you see a calm doctor that may be grounded, he or she may just be frozen in time. The unbothered doctor may look resilient, but he or she is totally disconnected. And the doctor who never asks for help may look confident, but he or she may have learned a long time ago that help doesn't come. So why would we ask? And this matters because functioning is not the same as feeling okay. A lot of doctors are incredibly functional, actually terrifyingly functional. We can run codes and lead a department and raise kids and balance a checkbook and pay bills and answer messages and manage everyone else's crisis, showing up for everyone on the planet, and still have zero access to their own emotional life. And because we're so competent, other people might not notice either, because we do all this under the guise of like having it all together, or once again saying, I'm fine. And the more competent you are, the easier it is for people to actually miss what's underneath. And that could be a lot of pain.
Okay, so let's talk about how these schema develop and show up in doctors. Where is this coming from anyway? Like all schemas, they usually begin as adaptations. A child may learn that emotions are too much for other people. I'm pretty sure I've scarred my kids when I was on nights and like super cranky. And I'm like, when you see my eyes looking like this, it's the time. This is not the time to start throwing things at each other and pinching each other and all that. But yeah, a child might learn that emotions are too much for for other people. They might learn that sadness is dismissed, anger is punished, fear might be mocked, or maybe their needs are inconvenient. A child could easily learn that comfort is inconsistent or completely unavailable. They might learn that they need to become impressive instead of vulnerable. I think that happens to a lot of doctors, actually. A child might learn to become funny, smart, helpful, tough. They might be the spiritual leader and really impressive in that way. They might be independent or low maintenance instead of emotionally honest. A child may learn no one knows what to do with my feelings, so I'll just handle them alone. Or even more painfully, having needs doesn't lead to comfort, it leads to disappointment. Again, this is not about blame. Everybody's parents were doing the best they could. This is just becoming aware that that might be your adaptation, and it might make a lot of sense. Your nervous system learns I'm safer when I don't need much. Or maybe it learns I'm safer when I don't show what I feel. Or it's better if I just take care of myself. And then that child grows up and becomes a physician. Surprise. Welcome. And medicine takes that adaptation, all of these ones that we're talking about. Medicine is particularly good at finding people who have that adaptation and reinforcing it over and over and over. We train to stay calm in crisis. We train to keep moving after unbelievably traumatic cases. We train to compartmentalize our own emotions and just keep our head down and knock it out. We're trained to prioritize the patient, the team, the department, the schedule, literally everything above us. In many environments, emotion is tolerated only if it's brief, private, and isn't inconvenient. It doesn't slow anything down. And to be fair, in acute care, emotional containment can be adaptive. Literally, if you're operating on somebody's aorta, you're probably going to have to hold your minty bee until after the case. So it makes sense. If the airway's crashing, this isn't the moment to discuss your childhood needs. If a trauma comes in, you need access to skill, focus, and attention rather than emotional processing at that moment. But if you never come back into your body, your grief, that fear, the anger, or your need for comfort, you don't become resilient. You become disconnected from yourself. In physicians, emotional inhibition can look like saying, I'm fine, when you are absolutely not fine. I also see a lot of physicians that are like, well, this happened to me and I'm okay. And I just think to myself, are you though?
Are you really?
Yeah, that begs the question. Are you though? Because that explains a lot.
I don't think this is landing the way that you intend for it to land, because I'm thinking you might not be okay. It can look like making jokes instead of telling the truth. It can look like intellectualizing the pain. It can look like being excellent in a crisis and then collapsing in private. Maybe you haven't cried in years, but you're wondering why you feel numb, because we're not letting it out. It can look like discomfort when somebody is tender to you, being wildly ill-prepared for a compliment maybe, or some sort of loving gesture. It can look like not knowing what you feel until your body tells you through, I don't know, insomnia, irritability, headaches, dread, exhaustion. Like your body knows. You probably, if you paid 2 seconds of attention to it, it would tell you, we're not doing well. Emotional deprivation can look like never expecting anyone to check on you. It can look like feeling embarrassed when you need comfort. What about choosing emotionally unavailable environments because they feel more comfortable? It just feels more familiar. It can look like feeling lonely even when you're surrounded by people. I mean, right? There's a million people in the hospital, and yet so many of us feel totally isolated and alone. Maybe it looks like being the person everyone comes to, but privately feeling like there's no one you can go to. It is one of the quiet tragedies of physician burnout that many doctors are surrounded by people all day and still feel profoundly alone. These doctors are useful, respected, needed, admired, but being needed is not the same as being known. It's not the same as being comforted. It's not the same as being connected. And if no one sees your needs, it may be because you learned to hide them so well that no one can find them.
So how do we begin to heal these schemas of emotional inhibition and emotional deprivation? First thing we need to do is address a fear that many of us have. A lot of doctors worry that if they start feeling, they will fall apart. And have you ever been in a situation where someone's like, how are you doing? And you're just like doing everything to just not lose it. because someone's actually showing you some empathy and concern. It makes sense. When you've stuffed all your feelings down for so long, it can be kind of like that beach ball that you shoved under the water. You're just worried if you let any of it come out, it's going to explode. Or maybe you worry that if you start needing, you're going to become a burden to somebody. Or if you start talking about what hurts, you'll be seen as dramatic or weak or unprofessional or in some way too much. But learning how to heal emotional inhibition, it does not mean that we're going to be like trauma dumping every feeling on everyone around you. It doesn't mean you're becoming emotionally uncontained or losing your ability to function, or you're going to somehow start crying and not be able to stop. It really just means becoming more connected to ourselves. And we can do it in a stepwise way. It doesn't have to be all at once. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic crying jig or whatever that would look like for you. Healing emotional deprivation doesn't mean demanding that other people perfectly meet every need. It means learning that your needs are actually real, legitimate, and allowed to be brought into safe relationships. And so the first step is just noticing. And for many of us who are emotionally inhibited, jumping straight into expression feels like too much. So we can start a little bit smaller and just ask ourselves, what am I feeling? Where do I feel it in my body? And I know that sounds hokey to some of you, and it's because we're all kind of cut off at the neck in terms of being able to have any sensations in our bodies. We deny our need for food, for drink, for going to the bathroom, but our feelings actually do show up as sensations in our body, and they can give us a lot of good information. We just practice noticing. Do I feel tightness in my chest? Do I feel a pit in my stomach? Do I, have a pleasant sensation that is telling me something different? So just knowing that we can pay attention to those sensations in our bodies, and asking when we can think of a difficult moment where we felt like our needs weren't met. What did I need? What did I need in that moment? And what did I do instead of actually feeling that feeling? We're not trying to fix emotions. There's no bad emotions. We're just trying to notice that they exist. And that's the first step to processing them. So you can start with most basic words. Most of us are a little bit alexithymic or emotion blind. And a lot of us can only name a few emotions, but we can just start with those first basic ones: mad, sad, glad, scared, ashamed, lonely, hurt, tired. We often want the most precise language possible, but we don't need to have really good emotional granularity or detailed emotional language at first. Just beginning with those basic words is great. Starting with what's true. What is it that I'm actually feeling? And the next step is separating the idea of privacy from secrecy. Privacy is healthy. You don't owe your inner world to everyone. You don't have to share anything you don't want to share, but secrecy is different. And that's where we have this feeling that this part of me must stay hidden because it's unacceptable, burdensome, or unsafe. And a lot of doctors call that privacy when it's actually just loneliness. And the best way to connect with other human beings is showing a little bit of vulnerability and, asking this question: is this private because I'm choosing discernment, or is this secret because I'm afraid of being known? And there's a big difference there. The third step is practicing tolerable honesty, like not full emotional exposure or like a 5-hour processing session or telling everyone everything. It's just one honest sentence with a safe person. Like, I'm having a harder time than I'm letting on. I don't need you to fix this, but can I just share this because I don't want to be alone with it. Or if they're offering advice, as many of us do, we want to try to fix the bad feelings of the people around us. Just say, I think I just need comfort or a listening ear and not advice. I'm used to handling things alone, but I don't want to do that right now. I feel embarrassed even saying this, but I need some support. Something about that case stayed with me. And if you have a case that keeps coming up in your mind, it maybe your mind telling you that you need to share it, that you need to externalize that in some way. So find a safe place to do that. Tolerable honesty is how emotionally self-sufficient people learn how to be connected with other people without getting completely flooded. And then the fourth step is strengthening the healthy adult response. Emotional inhibition says, don't feel this. I think of Elsa, conceal, don't feel, put on a show, make one wrong move and everyone will know. Does it sound familiar? And it's not healthy. Emotional deprivation says, no one will be there anyway. But the healthy adult says, of course you feel this. It makes sense. You don't have to handle this alone anymore. The healthy adult does not shame the need, does not demand that every person meet the need perfectly. It just simply says, this need is real and I can respond to it with care. So that's the work. It's not becoming needing, not demanding that everyone, fill all your emotional needs, but how about let's just acknowledge that we have some emotional needs, not becoming dramatic or losing our ability to function. That's not going to happen. Okay. If you are a doctor and you've made it to where you are now, that's just not going to happen. But this helps us become more alive and more connected and less alone in our own lives. So I'm going to share a little example. Imagine a physician has a difficult pediatric case, and during that case, she performs beautifully. Maybe she's running a code. Maybe she's in the operating room. She's calm, she's focused, decisive, clinically excellent. And afterward, everyone moves on. There's busy things happening and there's more patients to see. Charts need to be done. There's always another crisis to attend to. The event was it was a painful case. And no matter what the outcome, one that always comes back to me is, and I just have this very distinct memory of putting a chest tube in a 3-year-old who'd been shot. And she didn't make it. And, the schema of emotional inhibition might say, don't feel this. There's no time. Just keep moving. And it might say, no one is going to know what to do with this anyway. Don't bother needing anything. And you might have a coping style of shutting down or going numb or just acting like you're fine. Maybe you scroll or eat a bunch of junk food or drink too much alcohol or shop too much or do something to stay busy so you don't have to feel it. Or maybe you become hyper-controlled or critical or irritated because that tenderness, that sadness feels too exposed. And the healthy response sounds different. It says, that was a hard case. Of course it affected me. I can still be a strong doctor and need a moment of care. And I'm going to offer that actually honors not only your own feelings, it honors the lives of the people we care for. It honors our team members. And it's really important. It might be a small action, might be stepping outside for 2 minutes, putting a hand on your chest, or having a 2-minute debrief with your team. It might be telling a trusted colleague, that one really got to me. It might be texting someone after work and saying, I don't need you to fix anything, but I had a hard case and I don't want to be alone with it. That is schema healing. That's teaching our nervous systems that our feelings matter and that we can get our emotional needs met. We're not falling apart or oversharing. It's just telling the truth sooner and with more kindness.
So this week, we want you to notice where emotional inhibition or emotional deprivation may be showing up for you. Where are you saying, I'm fine, when you're really not fine? Where are you functioning instead of feeling? Where are you calling it privacy when it actually may be more like loneliness? Where do you assume no one will show up for you before you have even given a safe person the chance? And where might your healthy adult say, actually, this need is real and this feeling makes sense and I don't have to handle this alone anymore? Because remember, being needed is not the same as being known. and being competent is not the same as being connected. And functioning is not the same as feeling okay. So, the next episode, we're going to dive into defectiveness, shame, and approval seeking, the schemas underneath so much physician imposter syndrome. So that's it for today's episode, friends. If you found this conversation helpful, the best way to support us is to subscribe. So click that link below or click the button and give us a rating and review. And it also helps other physicians find our podcast and moves us up on the list. And if you do leave a review, take a quick screenshot and email it to podcast@thewholephysician.com. And we will send you a free ebook on emotional regulation. This is one of our most requested and helpful topics. And before we go, we have a gift for you. We've created the podcast Fast Track, which is a hand-picked collection of our most high-yield episodes designed to help you jumpstart your journey to freedom from burnout. We have well over 200 episodes now, and sometimes when you go to our podcast, it might look a little overwhelming and not know where to start. So that's why we've done this work for you. So head on over to www.thewholephysician.com to discover your personalized path to wholeness and healing. And thanks for spending time with us today. Until next time, you are whole, you are a gift to medicine, and the work you do matters.